Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Better Together. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just a little quick round of housekeeping. There's a comment section and an ask a question button. So if you're wondering about anything, you can just pop it below. There is. You don't need to wait until the end of the episode to ask a question. So just feel free to pop in all the questions as we go along. Without any further ado, our guest today is Cathrine, who is the CEO of Nordic Brain Tech. Nordic Brain Tech is a university spin-off company that works towards improving people's brain health, and their first kind of product, I would say, is a migraine preventative app and treatment. And they've been working with this and have taken it from research into commercialization, and are also working with testing clinical trials of it.
Correct.
Yeah. So you're super welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. I thought that we could just start off with kind of explaining what a university spin-off company
Of course. Yeah. So Nordic Brain Tech, we started the company last year, coming up from NTNU Technology Transfer Office. So we call ourselves a university spin-off because we have commercialized research from the university, from NTNU and St. Olav's Hospital. And they did research on a migraine treatment since 2015. Then you had business developers working on this concept to see how we could commercialize it. And we started a startup. Yeah.
Nice. And I'm just wondering, were you part of the initial kind of business development, or how did you start Nordic Brain Tech?
Yeah. So I came across this project while I worked at NTNU Technology Transfer. At the time, I was also a student at NTNU School of Entrepreneurship. I worked part-time at NTNU TTO, as we call it, with several projects actually on commercializing different things from the university. And I came across this project on a migraine treatment, which really struck me as a super interesting project because I have experienced migraines myself. I have it in my family, and I just thought it was super interesting and a large commercial potential.
Nice. And I guess there is no such thing as a dumb question. What exactly is a migraine, and how does it differ from a headache?
So a migraine, it's very important. It's not just a headache. People might think that, but it's severe pain, usually on one side of the head. You can feel, you can vomit, you can be very shy towards light, and you can feel really, really sick. It's actually the first cause of disability under the age of 50. And it's the most common neurological disorder. People usually don't know this because we don't talk that much about migraines. The death rate from migraines is very, very low. I don't know if people even die from migraines, and that is also a reason why it hasn't received that much attention.
Okay, and you say that you've had personal experiences with migraines, and have any of your family members also had this? I think what I'm kind of trying to get at is, how is it a genetic? Do you get it like passed down hereditary?
Yeah, so one of the main causes of migraine, we don't actually know all the causes of migraines, but one is genetic. Yeah, so it usually runs in the family. So myself and my other team members, we have experienced much migraines in our families.
Yeah. And kind of, who does your team consist of? So who are the people you're working with? I understand that you were kind of mainly working within the business development side of things. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So from the beginning, we had three main researchers. That is a neurologist, a neuropsychologist, and a PhD candidate in neurology, looking into biofeedback, and that's a concept we developed. So there are three researchers. They still work at NTNU and St. Olav's Hospital. And then we have myself. My background is actually from chemical engineering and biotechnology. And we have Marcus and Stefan. They are both engineers within software development. So we are 6 people in our team, the 3 of us, myself, Marcus and Stefan. We are working full-time here in Oslo Science Park. And then we are also partially owned by the TTO.
Yeah, nice. And when you started, did you automatically come into the position as a CEO, or how did you kind of start towards this?
So at the tech transfer office, I worked kind of as a project coordinator, or we worked in a project team together with several business developers. But I was super eager to take this out from the university and start a company. And that was also my intention when I started working at the tech transfer office. So that was a natural position I got just because I wanted it. There's not that many people that can take on that risk. But I could because being young, not that many strings attached in my life, and I was, that was what I wanted.
That's super interesting. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the product itself. So the product itself is an app, and you were talking about biofeedback. What exactly is biofeedback?
So we develop a preventive migraine treatment, and we build on something called biofeedback. It's a concept where you basically train your own body to resist migraines. And I usually try to describe this with an analogy to dancing. Also because I used to dance a lot myself. When you dance, you use a mirror to train yourself. You can see how your body functions. And in that way, does biofeedback work? So in biofeedback, we measure bodily parameters. We do heart rate and temperature and muscle tension by wireless sensors. The wireless sensors send signals to your smartphone app and visualizes the parameters in front of you. So you are being shown how your body functions and performs. And eventually you will train yourself to become more aware of your body situation. And in the long run, this has a preventive function on migraine attacks.
Nice. And traditionally, this is something that you would go to a doctor and kind of have them monitor this part. And I'm just wondering, how have people responded to now being able to do this on their own? Have there been any challenges or struggles? Because sometimes having a doctor kind of coach you through it can feel a little bit more relaxing. Have there been any kind of cases where people perhaps might have been stressed if they don't reach the desired results? Or
Yeah, so traditionally you can go to a biofeedback therapist and receive biofeedback treatment. You sit there for 1 hour every week and you can go for 12 weeks. The problem is that this is not really something that is available for everyone today. It's not being done that much in Norway at all. I speak to people about biofeedback and actually no one has really heard about it. It's being done somewhat in Germany and the US. And of course, there you will have a therapist that will guide you through a biofeedback session. Now, what we do is having a software guiding you through a biofeedback session. And this actually enables you to treat yourself at home without needing to go to a doctor. You don't need to pay very expensive, and you have a treatment available that is non-drug without side effects. So up until now, people have said, or the patients from the studies that we have had, they really feel in more control of their own disease, and they actually like that they don't need to travel to the hospital or to a physician, and they feel more power.
I think that's it's very interesting, because I do understand that sometimes when you are preparing to, for example, go to the doctors or wherever, there is a stress factor to it, because it's, you're telling your brain like, okay, we're going to do this now. So I think it's
Yeah.
very interesting that in this way it reverses that.
Mm.
And have you noticed any shifts perhaps from, I mean, okay, at the moment, because we are in the middle of a pandemic, there has been an increased, or at least we're increasing the pace in which we adapt to technology and technological and digital services. Have you noticed any kind of how has it been basically for Nordic Brain Tech with this wave as
we see more and more digital therapeutics and digital health, and it's more acceptance for a treatment where you use an app, you use a software, you treat yourself at home. And also with the COVID pandemic, treating yourself from home is something that the hospitals want, the patients want, because otherwise they might not even get any treatment. So it's more acceptance from the users, I think, also from physicians. I think maybe one reason is also because of all the video consultations we are used to now, and online doctors. It's probably a shift there. And the investors also are more interested in digital health solutions. They are scalable, and I think it's much of the future.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, kind of when you were taking this idea on board and working with it towards commercialization, what did you have any, when you were reading the research, did you have any kind of, boxes that you had to tick that you thought like, okay, you know what, this is a fantastic idea and it's also very feasible? I'm just wondering what you kind of thought about while you took this on.
Yeah. So when doing business development, it's all about who's the customer, what's the market, does anyone want to buy this product? Willingness to pay is super important. Otherwise, you don't have anything, because we are also we have to have a revenue stream in order to run the company. So those were things I worked a lot on. Also, the feasibility of the technology. Will it be scalable? Will it be even possible to make it? And at the time we did that early stage business development, we saw that it's an unmet need in the market. It's a niche market, but really something that is missing today. The non-drug part of migraine treatments.
Yeah.
And it's a large market. 1 in 7 people worldwide suffer from migraines, so 14% of the world population. There's also a willingness to pay there, and it's a competitive landscape, and competitors are good because it tells you something about that the market is interesting and there's things going on. So that was a very important reason for why we even started the company.
Nice. And how have you been able, or how are you navigating in terms of people's privacy when doing the treatment and kind of receiving that?
Yeah, so when you do biofeedback with our technology, you have wireless sensors and a smartphone app. We also ask the user to log their headache frequency, like when you had a headache, what intensity it was, which medications did you use, etc. And all this data that we gather is, of course, very sensitive, health data, personal data. So that is something very important that we work with every day to follow basically the regulations and the guidelines given from the Norwegian authorities, but also guidelines for building a medical device. So there are many, many ISO standards, other regulations, and we do everything we can to keep the security high.
Nice. And something that kind of piqued my interest. There is a gamification kind of aspect to the app. Why, or what was the reason behind that?
Yeah. So we use concepts from motivational psychology, where we want the user to be eager, be motivated to improve. And what we improve is the biofeedback score that you get. So you do a biofeedback session of, let's say, 10 minutes, and you get a total score from 0 to 100 on your performance. And we see that people are motivated and trying to increase this score every time. And that's the basic of it. And the research actually started out by looking at children and adolescents. And that was also one important part of having a gamification element to motivate them, actually. It should be fun to do a treatment. And we have also applied this when looking at adults, and it seems to work.
Nice. I think it's very interesting that you put the word fun and treatment together. I think
Yeah.
that's a definitely new spin on it. And do sessions generally last only 10 minutes, or is it, do they vary in terms of duration?
What we have tested in studies, clinical studies, is 10 minutes every day. But we don't know if that's the best way to do it. But if you do this continuously every day, you will eventually train your autonomous nervous system to learn. And we think that will have an effect. So it's something that we still test, but 10 minutes is okay for people to sit down and relax. You can also do 5 or 15, depending on how you feel that day. Yeah.
Nice. That's, I think it's very cool to kind of have something that is flexible, I think, in a way. 10 minutes doesn't really seem like a lot of time for people to kind of take out of their day, and especially from a motivational kind of perspective that you're talking about. I think it's kind of like a perfect little bit that you can just do it and then enjoy the rest of your day. And I'm just wondering, what has been your experience with funding, for example? Because you were saying that there is this shift towards more kind of like digital solutions towards health, and there are people genuinely being interested in that and seeing the value in that. But at the same time, you are working with this really niche market. Has this been, how have you kind of experienced that?
First of all, it has been difficult, especially in Norway, because people haven't invested that much in this area before. I don't meet that many investors who really, get the market at once. People are very interested, but especially when we talk to investors abroad, they have more focus on digital health, and they see the large market, the untapped market. There are more and more digital health funds coming up, and I think it's a good timing for us, actually, also with the pandemic. Yeah.
And what, for example, do you look for when you're looking for an investor? Because I think this is also something that it's very kind of close to you and kind of really close to your heart, and you are building something that is more than just a commercial product. This is it's a value-based product. You're increasing people's well-being and improving their life, really. So what kind of things do you usually look for?
It's important for us that they really see the value of the mission statement that we have in our team, and the motivation and the drive we have. So when I meet investors that are really founder and like our team, that is really super exciting for us, because then they understand our motivation as well. It's important for us that they know the market, and maybe they have followed other successful startups before, or have some experience with the type of technology that we do, because then we can also learn from the investors. Otherwise, I think it's important that they have focus on the UN sustainability goals. It's shifting more and more towards sustainable investments and health.
Nice. You mentioned earlier that you were working in the tech transfer office. How has this kind of aided your perspective when essentially leading a company, or how has that kind of shaped your experience into and you're bringing it into Nordic Brain Tech?
Yeah, so I don't know if it was the tech transfer itself, but very much my experience from NTNU School of Entrepreneurship. And also when I went to UC Berkeley in California, and I worked in a startup in San Francisco, because that was when my mindset really got shapen towards being entrepreneurial. And at NTNU School of Entrepreneurship, you're trained your ability to do business development really. You're drilled, like, who's the customer, what's the market potential, do you have the best team in place? It's almost like learning math. You just have to do it over and over again, and then you see the possibilities in another way. And that was my mindset when I worked at the tech transfer office. I looked for potential business ideas that I could work with in a scalable company.
And for people who might not understand completely, what does being scalable kind of entail?
Yeah, for me, we have, maybe I can just use that as an example, our technology. It's scalable because we can manufacture many sensor devices. They can be shipped all over the world to anyone, and the cost of manufacturing will decrease by increasing volume, for instance. The software is very scalable. It can be available for everyone through App Store, Google Play. We don't need any or much manual work in selling our product. That's what I think about is scalable in our case. Yeah,
that's very interesting. And you have a background in chemical engineering, and then you went into entrepreneurship. What kind of happened to bring you into this?
Yeah, good question. So when I studied for my master's degree in chemical engineering, we had a mandatory course called Technology Innovation or something like that, where I was exposed to the term entrepreneurship and startups, and I had never even heard about that before. I thought it was, this is something for me. Well, I actually continued doing the math and chemistry until I submitted my master's thesis, but I had a motivation for green technology. So I did a master's thesis on making bioprotein from natural gas. That's also an innovation, and I would very much actually like to do that. That would have been a very expensive project to begin with.
Yeah.
But I think I just maybe I'm just like an entrepreneur. I seek the possibilities.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And we're actually nearing the end right now. And I'd just like to. Oh, I think we have a question actually. Sorry. Over here, so Cal is asking. Is there a difference between adults and young people in terms of the prognosis of migraines and considerations putting into the gamification aspect of the game?
Yeah, so what I have learned from the neurologists in my team is that migraine in children, adolescents, and adults is a bit different. And people under the age of 18, they don't have the same drugs available as adults.
Yeah.
In terms of the biofeedback, I think that will have the same type of effect in the two groups, because it's about your autonomous nervous system activity. But other than that, I don't know if I can actually answer the rest of the question.
Well, we can definitely
yeah.
forward it to you, and you can ask some of the neurologists on your team,
Yeah.
and we can just post that back.
I'll do.
Yeah, and just for the last bit, like, what would you like to? Is there kind of any words of inspiration that you have for other young people who may be looking into starting their own startup or going in choosing the entrepreneurial path?
I will just, tell them that try and dare to try and dare to take the risk early, because it's very much fun.
Yeah.
And it's very fun to every day go into work and have something that is really motivating to work with, and a team that is excited every day. And yeah, I will just say that I would pick the startup way.
Every time?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was super fun and super interesting. Thank you guys for joining us, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your lunch, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.